Planet Mars. Moons, 2. Mass, 11% of Earth. Diameter, 4,217 miles. That means that if you were to go from one side to Mars to the other of the planet, it's 4,217 miles. Year. Mars' year is 1.9 Earth years. Its day lasts 24.6 hours. The temperature on Mars is in negative 190 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. So it can get as cold as negative 190 or up to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Distance from the Sun, Mars is the fourth planet from the Sun, 142 million miles away. Type of planet, terrestrial. That means that it's made of rocks and has a hard, rocky surface. What is Mars like? Mars is the fourth planet from the Sun. It is a terrestrial planet, which means that it has a hard, rocky surface that you could walk on. Mars' surface is dry and much of it is covered with a reddish dust and rocks. When viewed from Earth, Mars appears to be the color red. Mars has some of the most impressive natural geographical structures in the solar system. Olympus Mons, a now dormant volcano, which means it doesn't erupt anymore, is the highest mountain in the whole solar system. It is 3 times as high as Mount Everest and towers 16 miles above the Martian surface. So from the ground, it goes 16 miles up. Another major geographical structure of Mars is the Great Canyon, Valles Marineris. This canyon is the biggest in the solar system. It is 4 miles deep in places and stretches for thousands of miles. Weather on Mars. Mars often has huge dust storms with high-speed winds. These dust storms are powered by the sun and can grow to enormous proportions. They can get really big, sending dust miles into the atmosphere and covering much of the planet. Some storms are so big they can be seen by amateur astronomers on Earth. So just some guy in his backyard with a telescope could see these storms. How does Mars compare to Earth? In many ways, Mars is very similar to Earth. Mars' year and day are very similar to Earth compared to other planets. Mars is a terrestrial planet like Earth. Mars is quite a bit smaller than Earth, both in diameter, that means the distance across, and in mass, and that means how much it weighs. Unlike Earth, Mars has a very thin atmosphere, made up mostly of carbon dioxide. That's what we breathe out after we breathe in, and it's why people can't breathe on Mars. As a result, it is much colder on Mars, average of negative 70 degrees, than on Earth. There is evidence that open water in liquid form once existed on the surface of Mars like Earth. Perhaps there was even life on Mars billions of years ago. How do we know about Mars? So this is talking about missions to Mars. So look in your notes about missions to Mars. Mars is one of the easiest planets to study from Earth. It is fairly close, and since it is further from the sun than us, it is easy to view in the night sky. The Mariner 4 spacecraft was the first to bring up-close pictures of Mars in 1965. Since then, several space probes have visited Mars. The Viking 1, Viking 2, and Pathfinder landers landed on the surface of Mars and sent us back pictures of the surface. So these were all ships like this one, or robots that we sent to the surface of Mars. They have also analyzed the Martian soil. Mars will likely be the first planet that a human will step foot on. Many people believe it could happen by the year 2020. That's only 1 year away. This is the Mars rover Curiosity on the surface of the planet. Fun facts about the planet Mars. Oh, this tells us about the name. It is named after the Roman god of war. The Greeks called the planet Ares after their version of the god of war. So the Roman god of war's name was Mars. The 2 moons of Mars are named Phobos and Deimos. It has 2 moons. Because Mars doesn't have any oceans, it has nearly the same land surface as the Earth. So on the Earth, most of it is covered in water. And on Mars, none of it is covered in water. So there's about as much land on Mars as there is on Earth. The ancient Egyptians called Mars Har Daiker, which means the red one. A 100-pound person on Earth would weigh about 38 pounds on Mars. Some scientists believe that Mars was once covered with water. Mars is the second smallest planet in the solar system.